What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Right now, it's time to talk to one of our good friends of the show, Mr. Ross Jackson, the Locked On Saints podcast. Still pulling two-a-days for camp, getting you all the Saints coverage that you need right about on the edge of shifting into regular season coverage at Ross Jackson NOLA on Twitter. Ross, what's going on, man? How we doing today?
What's up, buddy? Good morning, man. Thanks so much for having me on. Always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Okay, so third preseason game coming up this Sunday, Ross, against the Texans. CJ Stroud going to be taking the field for Houston. What are your expectations in terms of starter playing time come Sunday?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't expect many starters for the New Orleans Saints to play, actually. It's been an interesting sort of week for them. I thought maybe we might get maybe one drive of that starting offense again. Seems like you might want to get them in rhythm once more so that it's not, the first preseason game and then all of a sudden the regular season game. But I don't know, DA kind of said some things yesterday that kind of indicated that it's really going to be a focus on the guys that are kind of fighting for roster spots, that are jostling for position, the younger guys, they want to see things like that. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that, that the Saints take a moment to get a look at maybe their starting unit, particularly over on the offensive side, for one more drive. But we might just be in for a couple of spot starters instead, guys like Trevor Penning and maybe some of the newer guys on the roster that are wanting to get some more opportunities there.
Yeah, get Pennings in there for sure. So that would be one of the guys. Otherwise, Ross, okay, so like with that in mind, who are you watching? Who and what are you watching on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of kind of the guys that are jostling for position. So just to give a couple of names, a guy in the linebacker room that's really impressed here recently and really impressed last year when he showed up, but he impressed kind of as a special teamer, has been Ty Summers. And, look, the Saints have had a little bit of a weird offseason with linebacker. We're used to them bringing in, a bunch of different linebackers and getting a look at a bunch of different veterans and things like that. They didn't go that route this year, but they did bring in Jalen Smith. So Jalen Smith I would absolutely put on that list as well. I thought he was supremely impressive during his matchup with the Los Angeles Chargers. Not just that one pass breakup that he had going towards that outside sideline, but the run plays, his ability to kind of read instinctively, see where play flow is going, react to that, all of those things. So I'm looking at that linebacker room, and I'm curious to see if we get a look one more time at both Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor on the defensive side, because seeing more of those guys, especially with Marshawn Lattimore kind of managing this knee thing right now, gives the Saints a little bit more fodder, a little bit more evaluation time to figure out who's going to be the starter opposite Marshawn.
Ross, in your opinion, how many of the 53 final roster is set, and who's fighting for those last position battle spots? Kind of, is it 3, is it 4? Kind of, what's that number for you?
Yeah. Oh, man. I think in terms of, roster spots that are set, I think it's over 40. I mean, I think you pretty much have the 22, right? Yeah. The first 22 as your starting offense, starting defense. You've got a good portion of the backups that are already set. You think about the offensive line, you have at least two there, because either Andrews Peter, James Hurst starts at left guard, the other one's the lock for your backup. Nick Saldiveri's not going anywhere, you know what I mean? So you see that the defensive line already looks like it's at least 2 deep at every single position, so that doubles that number. So I would say that they're pretty close to, or they're right around more than 40 players already set. And so I think that the guys that are fighting for positions, or maybe guys that are fighting to, contribute on special teams, things like that, right? Ugo Amadi, who I think you might as well just write down and marker, honestly, Ugo Amadi at this point. But, I think there's a lot of those guys that are kind of jostling for position at the moment. And then, of course, there's the top specialist battles, like the kicker and punter battles are ones that are still going on. We're still seeing these guys alternate. We saw Blake Grupe and Will Lutz both kick in the same day for the first time the other day. Will Lutz went 5 of 5. Blake Grupe went 4 of 5. And that margin of error just gets smaller and smaller and smaller as this time runs on. So those guys are still in that conversation as well.
Yeah, we talked about the other day. I can't imagine you bail on Lutz for Grupe yet, but there's maybe some juice there. Ross, to me, the logjam appears at receiver, right? I mean, Keith Kirkwood seems to have asserted himself. Jimmy Graham reportedly had a very good day yesterday. A.T. Perry's still in the mix. Oh, who am I blanking on? Who's the other name that crap.
At receiver?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're still watching guys like Shaq Davis.
Yeah, Shaq Davis has been playing very well,
Yeah.
apparently, almost daily for the last couple of weeks. How does that shake out?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because it's going to come down to how many wide receivers the Saints keep and then how many, in terms of how many opportunities are there. And the tricky part about that is that, like, you can't just look at that and go, okay, well, they're going to keep 5 or 6 wide receivers. It's, can they keep a 6 wide receiver that's going to contribute elsewhere, or could they get away instead of keeping that 6 receiver? Could they keep an extra linebacker that can contribute elsewhere, corner that can contribute elsewhere, running back that can contribute elsewhere? So you're competing with the entire roster more than you're just competing for another wide receiver spot. And so you have to do something outside of what you do as a receiver that tells the Saints, okay, this person can contribute in a way where we don't need that number at corner. We don't need that number at linebacker. We don't need that number at running back. And so a guy like Shaq Davis, and I'll mention a guy like Jontre Kirkland as well, both of these guys are guys that have made plays on the offensive side and have shown you that they have some special teams acumen to go with it. Both of them taking gunner reps, both of them working on kick coverage. Jontre working as a kick returner alongside Alante Taylor, as well as Ugo Amadi with Rashid Shaheed sideline for the moment. So I think that's the thing that you're watching with them. So I think the thing that puts Shaq Davis in a really good position right now is the fact that he's not only making plays as a receiver, but he's contributing on special teams as well.
Ross, what about the quarterback position? The Saints, obviously, in years past, you can keep 2 quarterbacks. You have Taysom Hill there, who can be a 3rd quarterback. You don't have to keep all 3. Do we see all 3 on the roster? I mean, Jake Haener certainly has made the plays to be up on the roster. We know Jameis being the backup there. I mean, that would probably be a surprise to most if he wasn't on the roster. So do you keep 3 quarterbacks and Taysom Hill?
Yeah, I think you do. And look, the Saints have done it before, right? They did it throughout most of last season when they had Jake Luton on the roster along with Jameis and Andy. And then they kept, and then obviously Taysom Hill was in the mix there. So it's not super out of the ordinary for New Orleans, but you're right. NFL teams usually only keep 2 quarterbacks, and they don't even have a Taysom Hill on their roster.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of a different structure that the Saints tend to approach there. But I think it's hard to move on from Jameis Winston because not only has he played in the NFL, not only does he have experience in your system, but let's face it, he's won in your system. And so having him as a guy to be on the sideline when Derek Carr comes off the field to say, hey, here's what I saw from the defense while you were out there, that's invaluable. That's that kind of like Mark Brunell, Chase Daniel, Luke McCown type of QB2 coach on the sideline kind of a thing. Whereas Jake Haener, you're not going to be able to get him through waivers more than likely if you tried to move him over to your practice squad. And I don't think that the Saints want to risk him because that's your backup quarterback in the future there that already speaks Derek Carr's language. So I think that you have to keep both of them on the roster unless you are completely ready to not have, to only have 2 because you're not going to get one of them to the practice squad.
Ross Jackson at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, host of the Locked On Saints podcast. Ross, tell everybody what you got going on at Locked On.
Oh, yeah, just keeping up with the 2-a-days like you mentioned. We'll be live later on today. I'm actually pulling up to the Superdome right now as we speak. For today's practice, which will be the final practice before the game. Have a live post-game show for you right after that on the Locked On Saints YouTube page. And then, of course, right back to 2-a-days. I'm actually going to keep 2-a-days going throughout the regular season as well. So we got a lot of stuff coming your way.
Bro,
we're doing it, man.
You are a sicko. All right. Who are you, Rush Probst? I don't know if that joke lands. That's the old 2-a-days TV show. That was the head coach. I don't know. Ross, you have a great day, man.
You too, buddy. Appreciate y'all. Y'all take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the 2 guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.